This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. I'm Chad Holmes, joined by former Newman Catholic High School head boys basketball coach Jeff Gress. We'll be talking plenty of high school basketball and hockey, plus our guest tonight. At 6:25, we'll talk to the head boys basketball coach at Merrill High School, Troy Pieper. And then our student-athlete guest coming up at 7:06 from the Central Wisconsin Storm, senior captain Ava Rohde. So that's all coming up on this snowy evening in north central Wisconsin. And welcome back, Jeff Gress.
Thanks. You can't expect anything different than the weather changing, right? Back and forth.
Tell you.
All good, but it's basketball season and hockey season, and that's all good. And wrestling and whatever else we miss.
Well, I mean, you look at it, we're right in the middle of January. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Again, I hate saying it, but as I get older, it does go by so very quickly. High school playoffs begin in hockey in a month, and then right after the week after that, girls basketball and boys basketball, and within about 2 months, it's all done.
It's just it's fast. Great time of year, though, because you got the conference battles coming down, and we're going down to the wire, just with fun things to happen at the end of this season.
Let's talk high school boys basketball before we talk to Troy Pieper in about 20 minutes. Wisconsin Valley Conference, there's a little gap now. There's only one team that's undefeated, and there's nobody with one loss in conference. Marshfield 4-0 in the conference, 7-4 overall. And then there's a log jam with 2 losses. You got Wausau West and Stevens Point, 3-2 in the conference. West 8-4 overall. Spash 8-5. Wausau East and DC Everest are both 2-2 in the conference. East is 11-2 overall. Everest 7-6. Merrill is 1-3 in the conference. They're over 500 overall at 7-6. And then Wisconsin Rapids 0-4 and 0-11. And I want to ask you about that right now, because I think that's the case where if you look back, you gotta put one game in your schedule early if you're a team like Rapids to get that win, because the thing is they play a good schedule, obviously, but boy, it's got to be tough to be at this point of the season still looking for that first win.
Yeah, it's I mean, it'll be a credit to the coaches, the players, because they're high school athletes, high school programs, so nobody's going to give up. They're going to keep playing and looking for and not knowing the dynamics. I know ththey're the solid guard play. I saw they changing coaching last year, so they did some good things last year. Yeah, so just things maybe aren't quite gelling the way they want, and you're looking for answers. And, as long as at this point you can still get the kids to play hard, build for whatever you're building for, whether that's game by game or into next season, and that's what you kind of got to go for. But, they're looking at the games coming up. They just finished with Spash, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it doesn't get any better in their upcoming schedule. So hopefully good things to come for them yet where they can get that first W.
Let's start it, then go from the bottom to the top in Marshfield. And quite a week in the conference for Marshfield. On Friday night, they were down by 9 at halftime to Stevens Point, came charging back and won 67-61. Brooks Hinson, 20 points. Joey Ketterer, 13. Grant Shadana, 20. Baraka McAleen had 14 for Stevens Point. Then Saturday, they won a non-conference game against Hudson, 66-51, right back at it after a huge win on Friday night. To do it on Saturday afternoon was a nice W, and I saw them last night, and they looked pretty good. Pretty good. They beat Wausau West 50-29, 13 3-pointers, the big part of that game, obviously. And West had a tough shooting night. Brooks Hinson, 17. Landon Lee had 11. Chris Pohl, he had not played until the game on Saturday against Hudson, 6'8", really talented player. They got a lot better. From just what I saw last night. They're good, and the fact that they were able to survive being at the top of the conference without a talented player like a 6'8" junior who's not really a center. He's a guy who plays a wing, an outside guy. Marshfield, really, I was impressed.
Sitting in a great spot. You mean you go from the comeback win against Spash, which is a good team hanging at the top of the conference. Tough to play back-to-back. You get another one right there with no break, and not that this the Spash game was hard fought. It takes a lot of juice out of your team when you have to come back. As much as it builds confidence, your guys are usually tired that next day, and for them to hop back up and do that again. And then I watched West play against East, and I thought West has been playing very well, and that night included. And to go out and control a game like that. The thing I remember about Marshfield last year and into this year, just what I've heard or seen, the versatility, the balance that they have, and now they get a player back in the second half of their season, and I believe correct me if I'm wrong because you saw the game, he's coming off the bench.
No, he started.
Oh, he started. Well, either way, so if he was coming off the bench, I think that's dangerous because that's going to balance.
I was surprised because
but if he's starting, that's just only. That either way with him on the floor, that's only going to help him. So Marshfield, very dangerous from the guard play to the outside play to the length. They can hurt you in so many ways, which it'll be interesting to see how they roll with the rest of the season because I think you're going to see them playing for a while.
Let's talk about West and East because that was a huge game. That was a huge win for Wausau West to go to East the way that East have been playing and really, take it to them. I mean, the final was 63-58, but it was really a game where Wausau West was, I felt, in control for much of the evening. Really a great win. It was a great bounce back as well because West had lost to Everest the previous Tuesday. It shows what this conference is. I mean, you're going to see these teams knocking each other off all the time, and that's why we have 4 teams now with 2 losses basically right behind Marshfield. But that West win against East, I thought, said a lot because, again, when you look at, and I said this to Coach Lemons last night, when you look at the roster for Wausau West, you don't see the big kids. I mean, if you look at rosters, you would think, oh, man, I mean, you got East has big kids, Marshfield has big kids, these other teams have big kids, and the way that West was able to win that basketball game was, I thought, very, very impressive.
Well, like you said, when you go and beat a challenging opponent, a good opponent, East outstanding record at 11-1 at the time, and now they're 11-2 after that game. It just shows I think with this logjam, like you said, we have in the middle of the conference, it shows the diversity of the conference. But for West, I was actually fortunate enough again to watch that game on TV, and it was a good. It had all the things that high school basketball needs to have. There's ADs walking up in the student section to calm people down. The coaches are, I watch Coach Garrett. They're fired up because it's a rivalry game as much as it's an important conference game, as much as they both have solid records. So from a spectator's view, I loved it. What I noticed out of the game was West came out and, like you said, they controlled it a little bit through their defensive pressure. East didn't shoot the ball well in the first half, which is not.
They missed a lot of shots. I think a lot of shots they normally would make too.
Which is not to East. East's high-powered offense has been a massive strength. When that turns on, it's really tough to stop them. And West was able to keep that in check a little bit, and that's when things, I think it ballooned up to 10, 12, maybe if it got that high, and then it sunk back down because East got hot again on the shooting and started putting the ball in the basket. So just a good battle, though, from little things like watching players on East try to find their shot again and get control of that offensive end to West players stepping up and playing a little bit bigger than they are and trying to keep players in check. So I thought overall great game between both teams. Converted that logjam in the middle and for West a nice win against a great East basketball team.
And talk about DC, Everest, and Merrill. They played last night, and Everest beat Merrill 59-51. Previously, Merrill had won over Rapids in conference on Thursday last week, 54-49, and Everest had a non-conference game on Monday as well, where they lost to Eau Claire Memorial 74-48, a game that was actually tied at halftime, and then Memorial just blew them away. But you look at Everest, Cade Felch, who had a massive game against West last week, had another big game against Merrill with 26, Casey Studeman 11, Vander Truax 10. Tyson Ott had 20 points, E.J. Wyke 17 for the Blue Jays last night. You look at those teams and where they stand.
Yeah, I think Everest, fighting through the injuries of their floor general and keeping things in check, have put them in a good competitive spot in the conference. You're going to have that as all these teams are, when you're missing key components or somebody gets in massive foul trouble. You don't have a good night shooting. That's when these teams go back and forth and blow for blow, and somebody takes the win and somebody takes the loss. So I think for Everest overall for the season so far, they're sitting at 7-6 and 2-2 in the conference. They're in a good spot to probably try to make a little push as they gain their strength. And we keep hearing in the weeks to come that Preview will be back. Hopefully soon is what everybody's hoping on that team. For Merrill, I think continuing to be competitive, the physicality that they play with. I saw them again against Newman earlier in the year, and they were a team that just played with a lot of effort. Kind of reflective of how Coach Pieper works on the sidelines. He's fiery. He's got a competitive spirit, that personality, and those players feed off that and come to match that and play that type of way on the floor. And so for Merrill, at Everest, tough place to play. Tight game. We don't know if there's a couple free throws down the stretch, and they obviously
Everest
got the win
led by
against
double digits at halftime, and they were even in the second half. Again, I did not see the game.
Yeah.
I did not know if they made a run or not, but it was a big first half for Everest. That helped.
But another team within this conference with Merrill that you're not going to overlook on a given night. They could come beat you because they have they have the scores on that team. They have the physicality. They have the athleticism. It's just going to come down to who's playing good D that night and who's shooting the ball well.
Great Northern Conference. Rhinelander in first at 5-0, 9-2 overall. Medford 4-1 in second and 6-6 overall. Mosinee 3-2 in the conference, 9-4 overall. Northern Pines 3-3 in the conference, 8-5 overall. Lakeland 2-3 in the league, 5-7 overall. Antigo 1-4 and 7-5, and then Tomahawk 0-5 and 4-8. The big game was last night in Mosinee for the second straight year. Rhinelanders gone into Mosinee and earned a huge win, 63-54 for the Hodags, despite 26 points and 9 rebounds for Braden Reinke. But Rhinelander seems to have that knack. That's a massive win, and that puts Mosinee in a little bit of jeopardy in the conference race. Now with down by 2 games against Rhinelander, and they still have a trip up to Rhinelander later in the season.
Yeah, you definitely want to be where Rhinelander is because you've won on the road against one of your tough conference foes. And you also start off, we talked a little bit about Lakeland kind of being one of those unknown teams of what you're going to get out of them on a given night. And Rhinelander went out and controlled that on Friday with a 70-30 win. So I think Rhinelander's sitting in a very good spot with the driver's seat with that win, especially getting those are hard to go on the road. We used to tell the players, you got to come in here and act like you're down 10. Home court advantage is worth 10 points on a tough night with you're going to have the fans there. You're going to have people chirping in your ear. You're going to shooting on different rims that you're not accustomed to practicing on. It's just you got to come to play those nights, and for Rhinelander, definitely did. And again, getting that production out of the Lamers and the Feck kid, they're constantly 15 points a game, in sparring with those two going back and forth. So tough guard. And what I've seen out of Rhinelander, can shoot the ball really well and can have their off nights. And when they're shooting the ball really well, they're tough to guard.
And they'll have another first place showdown coming up later in the week against Medford, which is interesting to me because I saw Medford play. And, Thursday night they scored 22 points against Cross Central. They lose 41-22, and then they beat Pines the next night by 15. Medford is 6-6 overall, but they're 4-1 in the conference. I don't really know. They have some players I thought that did well, but they didn't wow me, I would say, right. But yet they seem to find ways to win in the league, which is, I guess, the most important thing.
Yeah. I ran into somebody at one of my son's tournaments, and one of the things they said was that they thought Coach Brown was one of the, not to take away from any of their coaches, thought he was one of the best coaches in that conference. And so that could be where you're getting different things out of players on given nights. Your kids are playing a little bit above what they can, and it can make them a little more dangerous. They definitely put up the numbers. They beat Tomahawk last night, put up 71 points. Yeah. So again, that's against Tomahawk, but they got that showdown coming up against Rhinelander, and they do have a kid averaging about 20 a game. So I think they're always deadly because of the tradition, and they've been so strong in that conference for a long time.
Merrillwood South, oh man. Auburndale and Stratford 6-1 each in the conference, 11-1 each overall. Marathon 5-2 in the conference, 8-4 overall. Assumption and Edgar 3-4 in the conference, 4-9 for Assumption, 5-7 for Edgar. Newman 1-6 in the conference, 2-10 overall. But the biggest game was last night, and probably the first of 3, maybe.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be. Auburndale went to Marathon. Double overtime, and Auburndale wins in Marathon's gym. Just a massive win for the Auburndale Eagles, 72-69 Blake Robb, 30 points in that game, overcomes Drew Wolfel, 17, and Garrett Bracewell's 13. But you look at that one, that is just a massive, massive win to start things off.
Yeah, again, you can't get any better from a coaching, player, program perspective when you can go on the road and get that W of these significant top-tier conference games where you know you got to pull them out because you're going to see each other a number of times. And the sooner you can get that W to kind of get that confidence, build your systems, have your coaches work that chess game to get you in a successful spot to win is what you want. Rob, I know, has been putting up numbers for them throughout the season, been a very consistent scorer. To get it in double overtime even becomes bad. I mean, that's what it's about. It's so stressful. The players are living in that moment, which is challenging for them. But at the end of the day, even for Marathon,
they have played a lot. Quickly, they have played a lot of very close games this year. They had a 1-point game against Rib Lake. They had a overtime game against Neilsville. They had another one possession game. I mean, and then they had a 3-point win in the crossover against Prentice, 64-61. They are playing a lot of really, really tight games, and I would think that's going to help them coming down the stretch.
It definitely will. I mean, yeah. So you look at their 8-4 record. That's not the same Marathon. Well, they're. I got to imagine that's only strengthening them. You don't lose anything by playing those close games. And again, you can learn as much from not pulling it out as you can from winning it. And I think it's just a good sense of a building block where you can, as a coach, kind of siphon through what you got to do well to get the next one. And as players, you're kind of seeing what you've got to translate into from your practice into the games and the moments you got to make happen to get those W's and those tight ones, especially when they roll around in playoffs like that. So big win for Auberdale, but I don't think the end of the world for Marathon either, because these teams are going to slug it out again. You got Stratford hanging right behind.
And Stratford, I mean, 11-1, their only loss was a 1-pointer to Marathon, and they won big the last couple of games.
Yep.
They beat in the crossover Abbey 70-35, and then last night they beat Assumption 68-46, which again I was a little surprised maybe with that gap, but they're obviously after the football season and that little bit of a leg to get things going. They're playing some great basketball too.
Yeah, well, hitting your stride. Assumption's extremely athletic, and a lot of kids can score. They got a very good junior class, and I think for Stratford to go out and win that by 22, that's a significant win. And I like the contradicting styles because I've seen Abbey play. It's up and down the floor a lot, as I've mentioned before. And Stratford, they want to run their stuff. They want to stay disciplined. They're going to try to slow you down a little bit. So, with 70-35 over in the Abbotsford gym win is a nice win in the crossover game too. So, great record for Stratford and doing a lot of good things and transitioning all that football success onto the basketball court with just continued moments of being in the upper echelon of the Merrill South Conference.
Were you at the Edgar Newman game last night?
Yes, I was. I was at the table, so I had some of it. My clock was very good, but could miss some things.
So Edgar beat Newman 60-52, and obviously for Edgar, they're starting to build a little bit because I know that they were picked pretty far down in the conference, and now they're up to 3-4 and 5-7. And what did you think of those two teams?
Well, watching Edgar, I thought they, just the way they got the ball out. They like to throw a lot of long passes and get up and down the floor. It was impressive. They were pushing the ball pretty good. So if you're not on your toes and ready to get back after they control the rebound, they really kept you on the back of your heels and did a nice job that way. Also, like the intensity that they play with. When the street fight comes down, they want to win. I mean, loose ball, rebound, going out of bounds. There's kids hitting the floor extremely hard because they get after it pretty good. So I thought, Edgar played well last night, had enough of a scoring punch, and really tries to stick you defensively and hound your scores. For Newman, I thought the biggest thing is that I know obviously Griffin Pent is hurt, and they just need extra guys to step up in the scoring department because sometimes what I'm seeing from the other team is that they're able to they're locking down trying to handle those guys. The night before against Crandon, if Quincy got loose, Fender went off, got quite a bit of points, really kept him in the game, but you're going to need that balanced attack out of a team that makes you most dangerous. So if they do get on that one score, there's enough of a support to finish out that game because both times it was back and forth a little bit with Crandon. They were hanging around Edgar. Newman made a nice comeback to close the gap. It got up to be 10-12, and I thought they made a nice comeback. They had a couple fouls, missed a couple free throw box outs, and that made a little bit of a difference, but they cut it to within 6 and had a couple open shots that just didn't fall, and then Edgar hit a couple more free throws at the end to make a difference of what the final score was.
All right, we're going to have to take a time out right now because it's time for our first guest of the evening. We'll be talking in just a moment to Merrill High School boys basketball coach Troy Pieper. We'll talk about the other conferences we missed a little bit later on in the show. We'll talk some girls hoops as well, hockey as well. So still lots on the plate, but coming up next, it will be the head boys basketball coach of the Merrill Blue Jays. We'll be talking to Troy Pieper coming up in a minute here on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, the Marathon High School girls basketball team makes the short trip to Edgar to take on the Wildcats in a Merrill Conference South Division showdown. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Coverage begins with pregame show at 7 and the opening tip set for 7:15. Marathon basketball on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by Marathon Park City, Four Seasons Screen Printing, Brickner's of Little Chicago, County Materials, the People's State Bank, Marathon Cheese, the Dirks Group, Marathon Family Dentistry, and the Marathon Athletic Club. It's Marathon at Edgar in high school girls basketball. Thursday night, starting with pregame show at 7 on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Grass, I'm Chad Holmes, and now time for our coach guest for this week, the head boys basketball coach of the Merrill Blue Jays, Troy Pieper. And Coach, great to have you back on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. 7-6 so far this season. 1-3 in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. A very, very deep WVC this year. 13 games in, so basically just past the halfway point. How would you describe your season up to this point?
We've been competitive. We didn't have Corey Page for the first 6 games, so we weren't really our full strength. And we tried, probably to my fault a little bit, we were trying to be a little vanilla to start the year, not to show too much, and it probably cost us a game or two here or there early in the season. But I really like how we're playing right now. We're trending in the right direction. We played Spash really tough last week, had a lead at halftime against them. And that was Jaden Aw's first game back. He's a handful. And then we beat Rapids, who, they haven't won a game yet, but they have 2 very talented players, and when they find their stroke and they can shoot it, they can hang in there. We were up 19-2 to start the game, and they just kept battling back, and it ended up being a dogfight, but we got the win there. And then last night against Everest, we didn't close the half very well. We were down 11 at half, but came back, took the lead in the second half. But just, credit Everest. They hit a couple shots and made their free throws down the stretch to kind of hold on at the end, but we're close. We're close to beating the good teams. We're close. We're competing with them. It's just a matter of getting over the hump. And it doesn't get any easier because Friday we have Marshfield coming to town.
And Coach, I was going to ask you because just doing this hanging out here with Chad on the radio show and doing this over the years, you've just seen this I know everybody, every coach and all the players, everybody's conference is the best, and it's best from top to bottom. And I get that. That's conference pride. You're playing it. You're gonna believe in it. But I really think that this is one of the strongest top to bottom Valley boys we've seen over the year. I mean, everybody's taking a shot at everybody. People are coming and going. We got a new player in every game. It makes for just such a great story. But would you agree? Would you think this is one of the top down one of the toughest years it's been in the conference so far in a while?
I think it might be from what I can remember at all. Like I played in it when I was in high school, and Antigo was really good with the McCanns and Fermanacs. And West was loaded at the time with Freiburg and McDonald, and they were loaded. They went to state one of those 2 years, I think. But from top to bottom, it's every night. If you don't play 36 minutes of really, really good basketball, you're going to find a way to end up losing. Really, this is what it comes down to, because it's such a battle, and there's different people every night. There's the all conference meeting is going to be, I don't know how you pick 5 first teamers. I don't know how you pick 5 second team. I mean, there's so many good players. Marshfield alone, you could almost pick a first team with their team. Like, and Spash has players, and West, like everybody. It's as deep and difficult as it's been. And then when you have to do it, like last week was Tuesday, Thursday, which is a nightmare. I hate when they do that. But when you play Spash on a Tuesday, you get a Wednesday, which for us normally is a lighter day, a shooting day, a lifting day, just to kind of get your legs back after the game. We're turning around and preparing for another conference game for Thursday, which is no fun, and it's difficult. But it is what it is when the schedule is like it is. But like, we went Spash, Rapids, Everest, Marshfield, West next week. Like, there's no, you can't get above water. You can't catch your breath. It's nonstop, and they're all different styles, different sizes, different styles. Some want to shoot threes, some want to just grind it out. West is just going to physically just beat you down. It's a grind. It's definitely a grind, and top to bottom, it's very, very difficult conference this year. There's no doubt about that.
And I saw you guys play, other than watching stats, scores, anything Chad shares with me. I watched you guys play early on at Newman, and what I liked about your team, and I think it's funny because now I get to sit back, I observe, and you see how the coaches kind of have the personality and the fight a little bit of, the players kind of have the personality and fight a little bit of their coaches. And I like, your competitive spirit on the sideline. The players, I thought, reflected that. They play extremely hard. The athleticism, the physicality, the just kind of the killer instinct they bring. From just looking at your team, what do you think is like one of the big, you talked about styles with all these different teams. What's one of the biggest staples of your team, or things you like to hang your hat on? Because I see this physicality that I wouldn't want to go on that court. I'd be hurting. But you guys play really hard and do a really good job with that competitive fire and effort, and all the kids bring to the court. But how about from your opinion, style, what you like about it, what their flair is that they bring to the Wisconsin Valley Conference?
Well, one thing we've been stressing, since I've been at Pines, energy, effort, and execution are the 3 E's we kind of hang our hat on. But this year we've kind of twisted it to kind of set the tone. Like, we're not a real tall team, but every game we want to set the tone physically, with a physical nature, to kind of let you know that, we might not be a 6'7", 6'8" guy, but we're not backing down. And we talk about the 4-4s, the first 4 minutes, the last 4 minutes of each half, and how in most games, in tight games, you can look in those spots, and you're going to find out where the game went right or wrong. And we want, our goal every game is to make that other team use a timeout in the first 4 minutes. That means we set the tone, and now they're adjusting to us. That's kind of what the guys have bought into. We mixed our defense. We're playing a little bit of a, I don't know if you call it a pressure zone. I don't know what you really want to call it. It's the guys just fly around with energy in it. We track deflections. We track that kind of stuff where we can really hang our hat on, like, we're doing our job because we reached our goal on how many deflections we get, and then how many of those deflections resulted in steals, and did we convert the turnovers into points. We're really digging into, like, that kind of type of team, that kind of nature, and the guys have bought in 100%. We didn't really go with what we call our 2-zone. We didn't really show it until, I think, the East game. We did it a little bit, or we did it pretty much the entire game last year in regionals against them. And then we worked on it, refined it, added things, took things away. And then we brought it back out against East this year, our first conference game. And then we kind of stuck with it, and it's just developing, and we're kind of hanging our hat on that end. We're a bit of a streaky shooting team. We're not scoring as much as we want, but I think our point total is a little bit misleading in the sense of it's taken teams so hard to figure out our zone that their offensive possessions are lasting longer than they would like at times because they're just not getting the shot. So our possessions are a little lower than they normally are. It's reflecting the score. But like last night, the perfect example of talking about the first 4 and last 4. We let Feltz get off to a 9-0 start in the first 4 minutes. We were down 9-0. He hit 3 threes in a row, and called the timeout because I would be a horrible coach if he wasn't our scouting report to not let him get free and shoot. We did it 3 straight possessions to start the game, so I was a bit frustrated. But the guys adjusted. I think he only made 1 or 2 more threes the rest of the game. But then down the stretch, they started killing us on second chance points in the last 4 minutes, and we got a little bit of foul trouble. So a game that was back and forth pretty much the whole half ended up getting away a little bit towards the end of the first half because of that. But then we came out and we battled. We took a lead. We had our chances, and we just got to figure out a way to put a complete 36 minutes of our brand of basketball together and just see where it leaves us.
Again, we're talking to the head boys basketball coach at Merrill High School, Troy Pieper, here on 98.9 WXCO. Let's talk a little bit about your guys. And you said, hang your hat basically on being tough and being tough to play. And I think one guy to start with is somebody we had here on the program during football season, E.J. Wykes. Very impressive young man. I imagine that mentality kind of fits him, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean that is him to a T, especially on the basketball court. On the football field, he's not undersized or anything like that height-wise. On the basketball court, he matches up against go against 6'7", 6'8" people and kind of push him around because it's just. I mean, he's a physical. He's an athlete, and he can be a problem on the offensive end for teams too to match up with. But all of our guys, I mean. Tyson Ott's a sophomore, but won't back down. I mean, he went down in the post a lot last night on drives and finished at the rim. He finished with 20. EJ and Tyson had 29 of our 33 points in the second half. It was a bit of an off night, and a surprisingly off night for Corey Page. But it just shows you he went scoreless, and we had a chance to win that game. So we have other options and other guys can step up. And the most impressive thing, and I think it kind of speaks to the style and the mindset we're trying to create on the defensive end, is you can read a lot about what your team's going to be and how your team's going to react to certain situations. When your best scorers aren't scoring, how they react on the other end of the floor. And Corey was all over the place. He led us in rebounding. He was getting deflections. It didn't phase his entire game. And when your leaders and your leading scorers are still playing and playing as hard as they possibly can on both ends, even when the shot's not falling, it speaks a lot about your guys, your leadership, your team, and it makes you feel real good when it comes playoff time and things get tougher and the basket seems to get smaller, how you're going to win those games. And I like the direction we're going because of that.
One of the most difficult things I think sometimes in coaching is when you have it seems like a lot of teams in the conference have this, is these players lingering due to injury, and it can be different teams when they come back, or different makeups, different how you scout, different how you pair, like you said, what you show early on, what you don't show. I always find it from a coach's standpoint hard to watch. You don't want to. You always want to play everybody's best team every night if you're a true competitor, and you don't want to. You feel for the players that have to sit there and battle through injuries and wait. Was it? How'd you go? With Page, he was out for a little while. He's coming back, and when he's coming back, I don't know exactly what his limitations or was with practice wise, but is that ever hard to keep the because some of those players, when they're so involved on the team, they'll sit there and be at everything. And I know when you can't be out there running around, it can become a degree of boredom on that. So it's really hard. So anything that extra that you guys have to do as coaches to prepare for those injuries, to make sure the team's ready, to make sure the pieces fit together when everybody gets back in. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that journey, about getting there with him. Go ahead.
I think what it does for us, especially for it to be the start of the season like it was, it made other guys kind of have to step into a role that they weren't probably expecting to have to start the year, which is only going to benefit you because there's going to be dings throughout the year and everything else. So seeing guys fill roles and have to play extra minutes and bigger minutes and start and all that, I think it's more of a benefit. Like I said knowing we were going to be fine once we were back and everything was good to go, it could be a blessing in disguise come playoff time when those guys now are ready to go and they're going to have to take bigger minutes because of foul trouble. We kind of looked at it that way, and that's just it's helped us. I mean, we had guys come off the bench last night and hit big shots and play big minutes. We were in a little bit of foul trouble. So I think it just makes you a deeper team when you handle it that way. I mean, Everest, I was talking to Colin Freeby last night. He says he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. Like, they're going to be better because of the minutes that guys have had to play while he's out. And then you get him back. That's just going to make them a more dangerous team. I thought for sure, I didn't see him in his walking boot. I thought for sure he was going to play last night because he welcomed Awe to Spash, his first game we had to deal with. Pohl will be back. He is back. He played against Hudson and last night, so he's going to be back against us. I just figured why not let all the top players in the conference make their game return against us. But no, he's not back for a couple of weeks, he said. But it's good that he's going to be back. It's just it shows you the depth of our conference when people lose their top tier guys and they still are very, very deep and difficult to play against. And it just speaks to our conference and how good it is and how many good players there are.
And looking at your schedule, it's interesting because you talk a lot about the conference, but you have so many of these games that are part of your sectional as well. And it's almost like having two conferences, isn't it? I mean, in a sense, because you know the importance of those games in addition to the conference, right?
Yeah, and it used to be you scheduled those because when you went to the seating meeting, you could hang your hat on head to head. That actually meant something. It barely does. I think there's a fraction of it in the seeding process now. If you're battling really close to their seed score as somebody else, then they take. I don't know how. No one knows how they figure that, but that's kind of what you went with.
Right.
But it's kind of nice to play those teams to get an idea what you can do against them. We beat Medford, we beat Shawano. We're faring well against them. Now Rylander's coming up. They're probably going to win the GNC. They're just handling teams right now. So that'll be a good test for us. Anigo Saturday's playing good basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 7 or 8 and 4, something like that. So there's no cupcakes on in the schedule coming up, and then you just throw in conference games on top of it. It makes it difficult. Like tonight, we had a nice, easy night. Last night was a very physical game. EJ rolled his ankle a little bit, so we didn't want to push the guys too much tonight. So we had more of a shooting night, like a normal Wednesday, and did a nice light lift. Tomorrow we'll get ready for Marshfield, and then I don't know, Friday night we'll talk about Anigo because we play them Saturday. So
Yep.
it's just like you're in that part of the season now where it's just like let's roll it out and let's play. We are who we are, and they are who they are, and whoever plays the best that night.
Coach, and I if we asked you this the last time, I apologize, but do you like I always like to hear the coaches' opinions. Do you like the computerized system? Would you rather go back to the old seating meetings? You alluded to both of them a little bit. So do you have a preference? Do you care?
I don't. The computers I have no problem with. It's fine. I mean, I have a problem with it when 2 years ago, the first year they had it, we beat Rylander handily, and somehow we had to go there for the regional final. Like stuff like that is frustrating.
Yeah. Where
at a seating meeting that wouldn't have happened. But I hate seating meetings. I hate all conference meetings. I hate wasting time. Like it's just, I just don't like driving somewhere to sit down and everybody kind of already has an idea of where they're going to vote, and then we spend 2 minutes talking about our team, which I already have my thoughts of your team, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I just dreaded those seating meetings, so I'm okay with it. Thankfully, as far as all conference meetings go, the boys coaches, we've always convinced our AD who's running it to let us do it via Zoom, which is nice. We don't have to drive somewhere to sit down and talk about the best players. We can do it over a computer, so that's been nice the last few years. So I guess, it is what it is. I really do wish they would give us some sort of, update, kind of like this is where you sit, just so you have an idea so you're not shocked when you think you're maybe a 6 seed, and then all of a sudden the day of you're a 9 seed, and you're like, whoa. I mean, maybe just some updates throughout the year wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm pretty sure us coaches voted for that, but the WIA decided that wasn't possible or something. But we're not going to go down that road.
Well, as we head down the stretch, as we now, I mean, it's hard to believe, but, you're a little more than a month and a half, 6 weeks, whatever it may be, towards the end of the regular season. What are the areas that your team does have to get better at as you look ahead, as you look towards the second round of the Valley, looking ahead to the postseason? Where do you think your team can be better, and where does it need to be better?
I think we can value possessions a little bit better, and there's times where we'll just take an unnecessary rush shot that, while on film and to the people in the stands and to the guy that shot it, it might look like an open shot, but it's a shot that we could probably get 4 passes later, 5 passes later, and make them use a little bit of energy on defense. We kind of fall into that. And actually, once we got the lead yesterday, we had back-to-back possessions of exactly that. Either one pass and a tough shot, or no passes and a drive and a turnover is what I think it happened. So little things like that. We're doing a very good job of turning teams over. I think we turned Everest over 16 or 18 times last night. We did the same thing in Spash. I think Rapids was over 20-some. So we're doing a good job turning them over and taking care of the basketball, but we're not converting those turnovers into points, which is how you make your runs, how you I mean, that's just basketball. Just any sport, football, you name it. When you force an error or force a mistake, you got to convert it. Otherwise, it's just an empty chance, really. And there's times like last night, for example, we had less turnovers than Everest, but they had more points off of turnovers than us. Like those are the little things that are different in winning against good teams. And we're getting there. The positives are we're not turning the ball over, and we're turning the other team over. Now we just got to convert some more points out of it, and I think we'll be fine.
And lastly, Coach, you got I think you got a fun spot to be in. Marshfield's coming into your gym. They're up at the top of the conference with an undefeated record, and obviously with the win, things get shaken up again. You take a dagger at the top team to make it interesting. You rise yourself up in that win category in the conference. What's your team got to do to be successful against Marshfield on Friday night?
I mean, they can shoot a little not as good as they did last night against West, especially in the first half. I didn't see this. I didn't watch much of the second half yet, but I watched the first half last night after our game.
They got hot in the second half, actually, so you're going to enjoy the second half.
They started to get pretty hot. I mean, they hit a couple, and then they have so many players.
Right.
You go into it, though, these are the kind of games where you go in and it's like, they're supposed to beat us. I mean, they're the best team, one of the best teams in the entire state, probably expecting and hoping to make it to the state tournament. So when you get a chance to play those teams, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, I tell the guys, to make a memory that you'll talk about at your 25th class reunion. These are the kind of games you love because you really don't have anything to lose. Just roll it out, play your best basketball, fly around with a ton of energy, and make things difficult and hit some shots, and you never know. I mean, it was kind of the same talk we had with Spash. Like, make them realize that, okay, we better, they're for real. They're going to battle us all night. They're not scared. They're not going to back down. It doesn't matter. Like I think it's harder. I was more worried, to be honest, to play Rapids, who had yet to win a game. Like, that's a scary team to me. Like, they're not going to go winless. We can't let that be against us. Those are more worrisome teams than a team that's the second or whatever they are ranked in the state and top of the conference and just beat a very good West team handily. Like, all we got to do is show up and play like we do and see where we are. I mean, that's all you can really do. There's just there should be no fear, no worries, no nerves. Just come out and play and see where it leads us at the end of the day.
And also, before we wrap it up, I wanted to ask you about a special event that you have coming up next Friday when you do play Wausau West, not this Friday, but a week from Friday night on the 24th. I know that, in part of the whole great aspect of high school sports is relationships and everything else. And we got a very special event coming up a week from Friday. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's kind of it's going to be a cool night. It's going to be a special night. Every year we have a game where we kind of have it's hoops for hope.
Mm-hmm.
And last year one of the bus drivers in our district is battling cancer, so it was kind of a night dedicated to him, raising money for him. This year we're going to raise awareness for CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. Very rare, unknown. People don't know about it unless it directly affects them. And it just so happens that there's a student at the Merrill High School, Josie Geis, that's dealing with it and has been dealing with it for years. She's actually in Arkansas right now getting treatment. She's been there for 2 months. She's still going to be there for 2 more months, I believe. And then one of my good friends, Kip Downing, his daughter, just recently, they finally, after I would say a year probably of trying to figure out what was happening with her arm and her hand, she was diagnosed, or I don't even know if it's diagnosed, but given the CRPS designation, I guess. So she's starting that process that Josie started 2 plus years ago. So because I knew Kip and other people that we're friends with know both the Geises and the Downings, we were able to get Ava and Josie in communication and talk, because as much of a debilitating pain this causes these girls, it's just as much mental, not only on the patient but the families, because you're separated. Like, they're in Arkansas right now, not the whole family. Some are still here going to school and working, and Mom and Josie are in Arkansas right now. Like, it's so debilitating on so many different levels. It was so nice. They talk every day, I guess Kip said, and it's so important to bring awareness to it, and not only that, but raise some money for both families. And we had a pre-sale. We sold some shirts for the night. We sold, I think, 137 shirts in like a week for them that they'll get the proceeds for. We have a bunch of raffle baskets that we're raffling off. It's going to be a cool night. The players, so on these nights, I get a hold of the coach. I try to schedule these with a coach that I'm pretty good friends with. This year, it just happened to be perfect with it being a West high school student, a Merrill high school student, and I'm good friends with Nate. So we get all their shirt sizes. So West will have, the players will have warm-ups with, that night's meaning. It'll say Hoops for Hope, and they'll have their last name on it, and it says on the back, we support Josie and Ava. The Merrill players will have the same warm-up. The coaches will have the same shirt. It's just a cool night. It makes you realize that you can do a lot, even in high school sports, not only in your community, but in general, to make the night a little bit more than just the game. And hopefully the boys, West and us, can put on an entertaining show for the crowds. I think it's going to be a pretty good night, pretty special night, and I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it as well. Looking forward to seeing you and your team and have that special night a week from Friday night, and we'll have the game right here on WXCO as well. So that's fantastic. And again, that's big of you, the entire Merrill basketball program, and real special to do that, do something that helps others each and every year. But again, Coach Troy Pieper of Merrill Blue Jays, again, appreciate your time. Best of luck as you head down the stretch in the regular season, and hopefully a nice deep playoff run as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Go Jays.
Head coach Troy Pieper of the Merrill Blue Jays. We're going to take a time out, come back with more. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and thanks again to Coach Troy Pieper of the Blue Jays. Let's try to get through the rest of the boys basketball before the top of the hour. And then, of course, we have Ava Rohde from the Central Wisconsin Storm starting off the second hour after the news. But we got through the Merrillwood South in high school boys basketball. Merrillwood North has Rib Lake at 6-1 in the conference. Then Phillips and Prentice at 4-3. Abbotsford 2-5, Athens and Chequamegon 1-6, and Rib Lake was the only team to win the crossover last week. And that obviously for the Merrillwood North, if you find ways to win those crossovers and they beat Assumption by 3 points, that kind of gave them a little bit of a buffer, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and it definitely puts you in a spot because again.
Oh, by the way, real fast, last night they beat Phillips 67-65, and that was a big one in that conference because if Phillips would have won it, there would have been a tie for first place.
And that's exactly what I was going to toss out because they came back and they knocked off Phillips in their own gym. So I think Rib Lake's sitting in control. Again, and it's not easy to go. Sometimes, it's balancing out more, but I still think if you had to pick, the South has a little bit more of an advantage than the North when those crossover games come. It just shows in the statistics of who's consistently winning. So when they can go get one, and again, against a good athletic Assumption basketball team, it's nice to pull that out. And then they obviously held serve and got the game against Phillips. So I think they're sitting in a nice spot. They have because I don't know how in depth. They got Pines coming up.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one to watch on Thursday.
I thought that
and they gotta
as
go
well.
There. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. CWC East, Bondwell still up by a game over Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, 6-0 Bondwell. Whitburn at 5-1. Iola 4-2. Menominee Nation and Shiocton 3-3. Wyowega Fremont 2-4. Amherst 1-6. Manawa 0-5. And the big game of the week for the CWC East was Whitburn beating Iola 54-52 on Friday. That came off that Bondwell loss. They were down by 8 at halftime, came back to win. Jet Rogowski at 18, Oliver Fraser 14, and then Whitburn whipped up on Lakeland in a non-conference game Monday, 96-63. Rogowski had 33 points, but that Whitburn win over Iola is a significant game because that keeps them in second place.
Yeah, and I thought a good bounce back because sometimes you get a little frazzled. It takes a little, especially when you go from Bondwell and then Iola. Scandinavia is not. They're a solid opponent in that conference too, and hanging around the top there. So I think that whether it's tight, close, however it played out, it was important for Wittenberg to get that win, and then they made a statement against Lakeland the next night because they're gonna continue to roll in a couple games till they get back because they got some of the lower end teams coming up in their schedule.
And in the CWC North.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning on to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and time for our student-athlete guest for this week. From the Central Wisconsin Storm hockey team, very happy to welcome senior Ava Rohde. And Ava, thank you for coming on by.
Yeah, thank you, Chad.
Absolutely, and you came right from practice. So it's always great to have it work out nicely where you can come on by. I guess to start off with, obviously the Storm have a great pedigree, great winning tradition. You've been around 2 state championship teams already in your career. How would you judge so far this year? Obviously, you've been a team that's been winning a lot of games. You've been right up near the top of the state rankings. How would you judge the season so far for the Central Wisconsin Storm?
Yeah, our motto is actually this year, it's pressure is privilege. We thought that this would be good because it kind of just shows that, like, there are high stakes. Our team has a very kind of high, like, expectation for excellence, and that's how it's always been. But kind of recognizing that that is a privilege and it's not something to kind of cower away from. So kind of like establishing that throughout our team has been really, like, essential for our success and for the freshmen coming in, because we do have a very young team. But kind of, just setting the expectations high and expecting that, we're going to go back to state, we're going to go and compete hard every single game has been definitely very important this year for us, especially as, like, seniors and upperclassmen.
You've won 2 state championships already. I mean, that's to say it, and you're still going strong. What were those 2 experiences like? I guess first as a freshman being around it and being out there, and then last year as a junior. Were they similar? Were they different? Was one more special than the other? How would you judge those state championships?
I mean, obviously, winning a state championship is winning a state championship, and they're both, extremely special moments that are, like, unforgettable. But I would say they are distinct in their own ways. Last year as a junior, I was an upperclassman. I was also a captain. So kind of having that role in the team meant that I was doing more every single day. I was putting more work in, and there was a lot more struggle and kind of things that we had to come back from, I think. The road to state last year was not easy, but I think that it made it all the more rewarding, and it was just completely different than our freshman year in that aspect. But, there's no better feeling than winning a state championship, and it's totally hard to, compare the two.
Well, and you mentioned you were a captain, and you mentioned you have a youthful team. Is that how you describe them?
Mm-hmm.
Is it what's your role? Is that ever difficult to be in those leadership roles? Because you're already trying to do your job, help make your team the best, and then you take on extra responsibility. Do you enjoy that role? Is that something you look forward to? Take great pride in that leadership role?
I mean, yeah, 100%. I feel really lucky that my teammates, trust me with that, and I know that there's very high expectations for me, but obviously, there's some days that are very hard, and there's some weeks that are hard, and you're kind of like, am I doing this whole thing right? Like, am I doing what I should be doing? And that's, extremely challenging to kind of deal with, and it's the whole, like, am I good enough? Should I really be put in this position? But at the end of the day, it's also, the most rewarding experience, because there's nothing like, the feeling of winning state after everything that you've gone through and everything that you've had to go through, and kind of leading your teammates to that.
It would be, I think, even a bigger challenge to be a leader or a captain for the Central Wisconsin Storm because of the co-op aspect. When you have multiple schools, when you have, 4 schools is it right now? Is it East, West, Everest, and Mosinee? Is there anybody else involved in it at this point? Or the Wave, I guess.
Yeah,
So I guess you can say that as well. But is that add to the challenge? Because so many, I would say call it a normal situation where it's one school for a team, you see everybody in the hallways or at lunch or during class. Does that make it more difficult in terms of either leading or even when there are issues, because every team has their issues? Does it make it more difficult?
I think maybe to an extent. I just think it's kind of funny because, like, today after practice, our coach came in and she was like, Mosinee, you're dismissed at this time. Everest, you're dismissed at this time. And I think it's definitely harder for the coach because she has to deal with a lot more, athletic directors and a lot of that kind of stuff. But honestly, I think for us, it might be more of an advantage because, it's really interesting to see how, like, after practice or after school, we go to practice and we have, like, 5 girls who are, talking to their teammates and they're like, you'll never guess what happened today at school. And it's just, I don't know, I think that kind of, being separated a little bit does help us in the long run because we are all, like, sisters and we all do fight. But, yeah, it's also, kind of a really cool thing, though, to see your friends and teammates in the hallways and talk to them in classes and have them help you with other classes, and that is definitely something that I think I would miss.
And you talk about the tradition of the Storm, the 2 state titles, the pride that everybody has in that program, and you've been around it already a little bit from your junior to senior year. How much did that make for your off season and what you wanted to get out? Because everybody wants to end with the state title. That's the highest accomplishment you can have, and that's you walk off into the sunset after you finish it off for your high school career. Did that drive you to kind of really dive into this off season and put forth your best foot to make it everything you want it to be for this season?
Yeah, there's a ton of work that goes in the off season. Just even like outside of practicing and like the physical aspect, there's a lot of kind of mental things that we have to kind of like put in throughout the team. And as seniors and as captains, we have captains practices in the off season because our coach can't contact with us, and that really like adds on a whole other aspect of like establishing ourselves as leaders and trying to get the whole team together and on the same page with things, which is important, and kind of setting the pace for the whole season, which is really important. But yeah, we usually do work very hard in the off season. We have tons of off ice things and like workouts that we do at the gym, or we go like up like hikes up a mountain and stuff like that. And then we also have a lot of girls. Probably like 70% of our team are on some kind of club team, which they're skating from August to November as well, which helps everyone a lot too.
Again, we're talking to Ava Rohde, senior for the Central Wisconsin Storm, senior at Wausau West High School. Our student athlete guest here this evening on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Let's talk about you on the ice. A year ago, you were a second-team All-State selection defenseman, but also somebody that's very much involved on the offensive side. How would you describe your game? What are the biggest strengths of your game on the ice?
That's a good question. I would say recently I've been trying to be more offensive just because I've been told a lot from coaches and other people that I play very defensively, which is obviously a good thing, but I've been trying to expand my horizons a little bit, and I think that you can probably see that in my points this year versus last year. But I would say I think my strongest part of my game, I think I have a good gap usually, and I think I step up pretty well and play aggressively. But I think that I can obviously work on, kind of judging like when I should do that, when I shouldn't do that. And sometimes it's not always the best play. I really like playing on the penalty kill. I just think it's so fun. I love it so much. Really gets me going. I love the penalty kill. And
why? Let's jump in there because you're not the only one. I talk to coaches and others who talk about those who just it fits. It fits to be on that unit, and the job to keep the puck out of the net when you're down a player on the ice. What is it about the penalty kill that obviously just even the way you talked about it gets you going?
I think a big part of it is that the stakes are, I don't want to say low because that's not always true, but you're kind of like the underdog in the situation where it's like when you're on the power play, there's a lot of pressure that you have to score and you have to do something, versus on the penalty kill, you're like trying to defeat the odds, right, of them scoring. And also I'm generally kind of, like I said, a really defensive player. So, getting sticks in lanes, protecting the net is something that I'm really good at and I enjoy doing most of the part. And I think that we have an awesome penalty kill and we score a lot of the penalty kill, which is super fun. There's nothing like scoring a shorthanded goal.
And you mentioned, playoffs are right around the corner. Tough sectional. Never anything easy. You guys are always challenge yourself in your schedule and in the competition you guys play. Looking at your team right now with all the stuff coming around and wanting to get as far as you can, what do you think that, after all the games that you guys have had already, team is doing really well? And maybe something like, hey, there's still a little bit, we got to iron out this little bit yet to be the team that we want to be when we roll the playoffs and try to make that run for the state championship.
One thing that we, especially as captains, have been implementing this year is positivity. We work really hard on, keeping the environment on the bench and in the locker room positive at all times, because we've kind of learned that, beating ourselves up, talking to our teammates in a negative way does not in any way help our team perform. So that's something that I think that we've been working on and has been helping us a lot. And you can just kind of see it with our line mates. Like, everyone's connecting really well. Passes are being made very, aesthetically pleasing ways, and it just looks really good all the time. But one thing I think we can work on, I think, is just kind of like not like when we get scored on, it's hard to come back, and we have to kind of take that as motivation and use it, to get better and to score, as opposed to like being like, oh, like we're not going to win this game, because we're not usually used to being put in situations where we have to come back, and where we have to kind of fight to win, and that's something I think we can work on definitely, is not getting too in our heads whenever we get scored on, and just kind of coming back from that.
Did all right. The last game I did was against Gentry, and a couple of goals in the last 2 minutes to get you back to even after having to dig out of a hole for a long time. So maybe that is the process that is working. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
And something that's always, again, unique about the Storm is the amount of travel that you have to do, because everybody else has the Valley Conference here in central Wisconsin, so you'd have a road game at East if you were at West, or Everest, so short trips. The Storm, all your schools are together, so you have to go a long way, and like this weekend you have another overnight trip. You have a number of overnight trips during the season. What are the challenges of that, and what are the advantages of that, spending so much time together as a team?
I mean, the challenges definitely lie in like our schoolwork and getting all of that done. We miss a lot of school generally, and it's kind of impossible to get anything done on the bus, especially on overnights. The girls are very we have a lot of personality on this team, so it's hard to get anything done, which is definitely a challenging part. A good part is that spending time together is always good. Being with your teammates is always good, and the girls really enjoy their time together on the bus. Everyone in the back is just crazy, and it's so funny to listen to. But even if you're trying to do schoolwork, it's it's okay.
Hockey sounds like it occupies a lot of your time. Do you play any other sports?
No, I just play hockey.
Okay. Then that ends my question on the multi-sport. So, let's take it though. Athletes in general, very busy. And sometimes I think you just need, you talked about it's hard to get homework done because we have that downtime with our teammates, and that's a lot of fun. For yourself, what do you do to de-stress, get away from that time? What's all athletes, I think, have time where they have to just mellow out and figure out time to not focus on the sport. What's that free time for you that you enjoy?
Honestly, I don't get much free time. In my free time, I would say I hang out with my teammates. Me and my 5 of my teammates went to Sylvan Hill after the game on Saturday. So we hang out a lot. We go to other games, and most of our time is actually spent together. But I guess when I'm kind of by myself, I just really prioritize taking care of myself and eating good and drinking well, and kind of sleeping well, just because all of that impacts your performance so much, and it impacts your day-to-day life so much. And that's something that I didn't really do a very good job of when I was younger, and it definitely kind of came back and got me later at the end of the season. So that's something that I've been working really hard on.
And you talked about hanging out with teammates, and obviously hockey being a big part of your life. As a senior, when it's all said and done, okay, because it goes by so fast. That's what I find remarkable about it. The season goes by fast, the career goes by fast, and then you're on to your next journey. What will you miss most about it when it's gone? The high school portion.
Yeah. And maybe this is cliche, but, definitely just spending time with your teammates. And I think that that's something that we all take for granted. Everyone takes it for granted. And every single senior has said this at the end of their year all the time. But there's just something so special, and definitely I don't think you can find it anywhere else other than the environment of high school sports, of spending time with your teammates every single day, getting to know them like no other person, getting bonds with them or strengthening bonds with them that are, nothing can affect that, or nothing can make you lose your friendships with them. And I have a lot of friends on the team, and who I, love like my sister, and I never had a sister, and it's just I don't imagine it feeling any other way, and that's something I'm going to miss a lot.
How old were you when you first started playing hockey?
4.
What was it about the game as you were very young and you started playing it, and obviously, the way you talk about it, it's a lot on your mind, that it's something you think a lot about. What was it about the game that drew you in to keep on striving for excellence within it and to spend so much time with it? And you said you go to other games. I mean, obviously it sounds like you love hockey beyond the competitive aspect. What is it about the game of hockey that has driven you over these years?
I mean, when I was little, I've always loved to win. I've always loved to be good at something. But other than that, I think something that really has driven me is just how unique of a game hockey is. There's nothing like it. There's so many different aspects that you need to master to be really good at it. There's the skating, the passing, the stick handling, the shooting, the thinking skills, the communication skills. And being good at hockey and learning how to master those things takes you on so many good levels on like other things in life. So when you can figure out how to talk to your teammates, you can figure out how to talk to your coworkers or your teachers or other people. When you work hard at something and you spend hours honing up your skills at skating or stick handling, that carries over into every other aspect of your life, which I think is really unique to hockey.
Again, we're talking to Ava Rohde of the Central Wisconsin Storm here on 98.9 WXCO. What's your favorite class in school?
I'm a really big humanities person. I love the humanities, so I would say right now I really like my AP European History class.
You were the number 5. Is there any meaning to that, or is it just what you got assigned?
I've always been 5. I think I was like looking through my camera roll, and there's a picture of me when I was like 4 with a number 5 jersey on. When I was younger, and we still are, but our family is a big like UND hockey fan.
Mm-hmm.
We love that team, and there was a player, and his name was like Che Genoway, and he was number 5, and we really liked him, and he was a great player, and I think that's why I picked 5.
Well, with the favorite class you listed, when with higher education, do you have a field you're looking to go into? Something, I know you could be. I mean, people can be totally undecided too at this point. But is there something that, from your classes or from goals that you want to accomplish, that are going to steer you towards a certain occupation or job you want to have?
Yeah, I would say in general I'm really good at reading and writing, and I like history classes. I like English classes. And kind of stuff like that. So I think when I go to college, I would like to major in something like along the lines of political science or history or English or something like that. And then right now, I think I want to go to law school, but we'll see how that works out.
As a political science major myself, that's a good way to go. I loved it. I loved it. So, do you have a favorite rival? Is there a team that you enjoy playing the most?
I mean, I would say Hayward. In the most respectful way possible, I hate that team. I'm not over our loss a few years ago. I'm not over them kicking us out, and I don't think I ever will be. And every single time we play them, I just have something that I want to beat them so bad. That's a team that whenever we step on the ice, like, we want to beat them.
It's an interesting aspect you hear from coaches, players, whoever it may be. You've won 2 state championships. You had the one year you lost. Which do you think about more?
The one year we lost.
Interesting.
Well, and how, I guess, share with us how awesome is it to be down at state? Because percentage-wise, there's a lot of teams, players, people that never experience that throughout their high school career. They get to do multiple times just to do it once, just to even be there. It's such a neat factor to be a player, coach, in part of a program to get down there. Of all the accomplishments and efforts and time it takes to make that happen, I think it's a huge deal and creates just outstanding memories from that portion of people's time in high school. What's the special part of getting down there? What do you love most about that makes you want to recoup that again this year and make it happen for a third time?
I mean, it's an experience like no other. I don't think I'll ever be able to experience something like that once I graduate high school again. Just like the feeling of stepping off the bus and going into the rink, and all, like, you get a lanyard that says your name on it, and it's so cool, and there's a bunch of different like functions that you get get to go to as a team, and you just feel really important. But, I mean, just all the work that it takes to get there and everything that we accomplished that other teams didn't get to, and kind of just being able to look back on your season and be like, oh, wow, so all of that skating that we did, all of that work that coach put us through was for a reason, and all of that struggle that we had to overcome and all of the adversity wasn't just for nothing. And there was a point to it, and just being able to, like I said, look back and kind of understand it comes full circle, I think.
Anything else before our final question?
Go for it. You're the hockey guy.
Well, the question is,
I know.
it's the same for
I'm
everybody.
going to divvy up to the hockey guy to do it.
But as a senior, and obviously you've been part of this program now for 4 years, coming down the stretch of your final, go around in high school athletics. You said it, you got some very young players, and that's one of the things that's always interesting. You see a lot of freshmen that have been on the ice for your team. What piece of advice do you give a freshman based on what you've learned over these years that they should be thinking about as they start their journey that you've already gone so far into? What piece of advice would you give a freshman just starting off based on what you've learned?
I think that I would, tell my freshmen that it's never, ever a showing of weakness to ask for help. I think as someone who's very independent, I try to do everything myself all the time, and it doesn't always work out for me. And talking to your coaches, talking to your teammates, and being able to lean on them is never weak, and it's never kind of a matter of, can I handle this myself? And you shouldn't have to, and that's part of being on a team. And I think that it's really important that all freshmen and everyone on a team kind of works together, and they all build each other up and not tear each other down. And being able to kind of be vulnerable and talk to your teammates and talk to your coaches is what makes a team click and be great.
Terrific. Ava Rohde, Central Wisconsin Storm, senior captain, defenseman. Storm, 14-3, if I'm not mistaken, at this point of the season. Hard to believe 17 games already. It goes by so very quickly. We'll have the Storm on Saturday, right here on 98.9 WXCO, down in the Mequon, I believe it is, the Lakeshore Lightning.
Yeah.
Maybe you know this. I've seen it listed as the varsity being first and other times the varsity being second. The varsity's playing first on Saturday. Is that correct or not? I've seen it both ways, and it's like I thought maybe I'd ask you.
I think so.
Okay.
If it says that, probably.
Yeah. So.
Or I don't know, because sometimes our JV plays first.
Right. I know. That's one of the odd things.
I don't know. That's a tough question.
I will find out. Make sure I get there in time. But Ava, thank you very much, and congrats on all the success, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a quick time out and then come back with more Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
Weekend news and notes from the Hardwood feature upsets and big games. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. The winter sports season continues to grind on as we move into the middle of January. On Saturday, the state's top-ranked girls basketball team went down as Pewaukee went on the road for a non-conference game, but fell to Arrowhead in a top-5 showdown in Division I. The Warhawks got 35 points from junior standout Natalie Cuso. Also last week, defending Division V state champion Albany Monticello won a close one over rival Argyle Pecatonica 51-46, getting 15 points from Heidi Olsen, along with 11 by Abby Hollis, and 10 points and 10 rebounds from Delana Trumpy. In boys basketball action last week, there were a couple big-time games in the Fox Valley on Friday night. D1 7th-ranked Appleton North defeated 8th-ranked Kaukauna in an FBA showdown when Nathan Ramus hit his 10th three-pointer of the game in the closing seconds and then stole the ball at the end to secure a 75-74 win. Ramus finished with 42 points. De Pere rallied from a halftime deficit to defeat Ashwaubenon 83-82 on Friday, despite 42 points from Ashwaubenon senior Amari Allen. The Redbirds got 35 points from senior Badgers commit Zach Kinziger. Eau Claire Memorial took control of the Big Rivers Conference, beating Rice Lake 39-38 in a low-scoring contest that puts the Old Aids alone on top of the league standings. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. And on the Civic Media app. And again, if you have missed any of our programs, you can go to our website, WXCO.FM, click on air, and then you'll be able to go and find the Big High School Sports Show, all of our high school sports broadcasts and everything right there. And also, if you miss it, you can, if you're on Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts, just subscribe, and you'll never miss an episode of the Big High School Sports Show. With Jeff Grest, I'm Chad Holmes, and again, another terrific student athlete to talk to. And again, that's one of the things that's so nice about the program, to have an opportunity to sit down for 20 minutes or whatever it is and really delve into things with some of these student athletes and, of course, the coaches as well.
Well, it just gives you a picture into the how they process things, what they're seeing out of their teams. I always enjoy whatever the coaches and players get to share about the successes in their programs, and it comes out of their eye. Hey, it's always genuine. I like that authenticity to what they're saying and what they're sharing about how the high school sports are on their end.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little hockey right now and start with the Central Wisconsin Storm, because they are 14-3 on the season. Last week, they played games on Friday and Saturday. They were at home. In fact, we talk about all the trips they took. It was a nice couple of weeks because they played 5 home games in a row, and they do have these long road trips, and they have these overnight stays. And when they are home, it's something I know that everybody enjoys. And on Friday night, they beat the Eau Claire area 2-1 in overtime. Gabby Heiser and Jaden Yurkovsky had goals for the Storm. They had a 43-19 edge in shots, but needed that overtime goal by Yurkovsky to win it. And then on Saturday, a little less stressful as they defeated Hudson by a score of 6-0. Heiser had a big day. She had 4 goals in that one. Jaden Yurkovsky also scored, and Sophie Bolin as well. So 14-3 right now for the Storm, ranked number 3 in the state in the WisconsinPrepHockey.net coaches poll. And this weekend, again, back-to-backs. On Friday night, they travel to Beaver Dam, and then on Saturday down in Mequon against the Lakeshore Lightning. And I will be hitting the road Saturday morning, bright and early, heading down to Mequon, and I will have that game live for you. Again, I've seen it listed both, but I believe the varsity is actually playing first at 1:45. So I'll be on the air at 1:30 for that one right here on 98.9 WXCO and online. High school boys hockey, Wisconsin Valley Conference. You got Stevens Point, the number 1 ranked team in the state. They are still unblemished. They're 5-0 in the conference, 14-0 overall. Wausau West, winners of 6 games in a row. They're now 12-4 on the season, and they are 4-1 in the conference. DC Everest is on a win streak as well. They're 12-5 overall and 4-2 in the league. Wisconsin Rapids 2-3 in conference, 5-9 overall. East Merrill United is 7-10 overall, 1-5 in the conference, and Marshfield 0-5 in league, 6-10 overall. Some of the action last week, it was a busy week for Wausau West. They had 4 games in 5 days. It was a busy week for me because I did all those games. But on Thursday, they defeated Wisconsin Rapids 6-1. And then Friday, they beat Eau Claire Memorial 3-0. Julian Scalcucci had 33 saves in that game. West came from behind on a pair of third-period goals by Cooper DePoit to edge Middleton Saturday 5-4. And then on Monday night, went over to Chippewa Falls and defeated Chi High 5-0. So West has been moving up. And right now, I would say they're in position to perhaps get a first-round bye in the sectional, maybe a number 3 seed. Again, plenty of work to do. Stevens Point and Hudson also in that bracket right now, I would say, is above Wausau West. But Warriors making a move. And this week, tomorrow night, some Wisconsin Valley Conference play, 3 games. EMU is at Stevens Point. I'm actually curious about that game because you as a coach know when somebody kind of pours it on. And the first time around, Spash beat EMU 19-0.
Yeah.
And that was not good.
Poster board material.
That's not good. That's just not good. And I know that Smash is that good, but at the same time, there's got to be an edge tomorrow night, I think, for EMU, because you just don't like that.
That should be right in the pregame. That should be being preached all week leading into that game. I think that's material to come out and get in a good street fight, because you want to show yourself of what you're capable of, and not feel like you're defenseless out on the ice.
DC Everest will look to continue their win streak at home against Wisconsin Rapids, and Wausau West is home against Marshfield tomorrow night, and that game can be heard live on the Sports 2 stream of WXCO.FM and also on the Civic Media app. So if you have not downloaded the Civic Media app yet, do so. You can listen to all of our programming, and then we have the alternate streams both on the website and at Civic and on the Civic Media app. So again, if you go to WXCO.FM, you just click on in the upper left corner Sports 2. You'll be able to hear me live at 6:45 tomorrow night. Tom Weaver will have girls basketball with Edgar hosting Marathon here on 98.9 WXCO. But again, if you want to catch that Wausau West broadcast, 6:45 for the pregame on the Sports 2 stream tomorrow evening. Other games of interest in high school boys hockey, I would say, is Stevens Point against University School. U School is a very good program. They beat Wausau West earlier, so maybe a challenge for the undefeated Panthers. And basically, it's all lining up for a week from tomorrow, when West goes to Stevens Point. Not that I'm counting down the days, but it's going to be
my next question.
It's going to be a packed house. It's going to be just a massive, massive game. Conference title perhaps on the line, so that's coming up in 8 days.
Does what would it take for? Is it going to be hard then, just based on record wise, for West to get a higher seed, even if they win that, because they would split?
You certainly could make an argument, because later in the season, I think you've probably been there too.
Yeah.
When you win the second matchup, you say, "Hey,
that's what everybody remembers."
Right now, we're better.
It's living in the now.
We went into their barn and we beat them the second time. That's definitely an argument that could be made.
Makes sense.
Let's talk about girls high school basketball right now, and. Let me pull out my sheets. There's so many pieces of paper here. Wisconsin Valley Conference, Stevens Point in first place at 5-0, 11-3 overall. Marshfield 4-1, 5-8 overall. Then DC Everest is now third at 3-2, 5-8 overall. West is fourth at 3-3, 4-12 overall. Rapids 2-3 in the conference, 4-8 overall. Merrill 1-4 and 4-10, and East is 0-5 and 0-9. And plenty of activity in the Valley, both last night and on Friday. One of the big games was, we mentioned this last week, the top two teams, Stevens Point and Marshfield. And Spash won in Marshfield. It was a battle, 51-45. Jada Seibert had 17, Lydia Johnson 15, Leah Aui 10 for Spash, Zayda Kolbeck 15, Emma Ridgway 13 for Marshfield. And then Stevens Point backed it up with a 73-36 win over Rapids last night, while Marshfield doubled up Wausau West 68-34. But then that actually snapped a 6-game losing streak for Marshfield, but they've been playing a lot of tough non-conference games. But that was a huge win for Spash. We talked about it, that I think for Stevens Point to be had, that was sort of a game that Marshfield or anybody in the conference would have needed, because right now Stevens Point definitely in the catbird seat.
Right, and they're 11-3 overall, 5-0 record at the top of that conference, and kind of solidified themselves to say, we've talked that they're probably they should be at the top based on what they've done, the way they're playing in their non-conference games, and that just went out and, like I said, solidified it, that they own that spot, and they turned around and beat up Rapids on Tuesday, and they're going to continue that because they play East on Friday.
And for DC Everest, again, they're up to third place. I mean, that's I think it's been a really solid start for Lauren Bolus in her first year.
Well, and I think as coaches, it's when you take over a program, unless Everest was down in the bottom of the conference. You don't know if things are bare, what you got to reestablish. But this start to the season is always so important, to start setting your foundation for the program of the tenure that you want to put in. So you want to establish things built on your philosophies. And I think anytime you can create a better season than the season before, whether it's connections with the players, whether it's win-loss record, whatever it might be, they're gradually creeping out. They're out of the bottom there. They're sitting in that third place spot at a 3-2 mark, which is a good spot for them to be in, since they paid their dues the last couple seasons.
Yep, exactly right. Great Northern Conference. You got Lakeland still atop the league at 6-0, 11-4 overall. Mosen East 1 game back at 5-1, 10-3 overall. Rhinelander, a tough week. They lost a couple of conference games. They're now 4-2 in the conference, 9-5 overall. Medford 4th at 3-3, 6-8 overall. Tomahawk 5th in the GNC on the girls' side at 2-4, 5-7 overall. Northern Pines 1-5 in league, 3-10 overall. And Antigo still looking for that first win in conference, 0-6, and they're 1-10 overall. Rhinelander ran into both Mosinee and Lakeland. And Friday, Lakeland beat Rhinelander 62-28. Christina Wilmette, 27. Ava Evenhouse had 17. And then last night, Mosinee beat Rhinelander 65-24. Talon Jershely had 18. Peyton Jershely, 13. Auburn Clark had a back issue, did not play for Rhinelander, and obviously that was a big factor. But Lakeland and Mosinee did what they need to do to get ready for their second matchup in Mosinee.
Yeah, it's kind of playing out the way that we thought it might, where, Mosinee's only loss was to Lakeland. So we see that what they do when they get them the second time around.
They're playing actually tomorrow night.
Yeah, which is coming around really fast. So is it tomorrow or is it Friday?
Let me.
No big deal. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's the next conference game, so it doesn't matter. I was just asking.
You're right. You are right.
Well,
it is on Friday nights.
No big deal.
I made an assumption that was wrong. We want to be accurate around here, but no. It's
but I think
Friday.
the conference. That's what this is all about. Lakeland 6-0, Mosinee 5-1, and a chance to even it out for Mosinee and for Lakeland to take sole possession and ownership of that. Obviously for Rhinelander, tough week with those last two losses because it kind of knocks you out of that. It's a lot harder to make that ground up with Lakeland and Mosinee being so strong.
Right.
So, good thing. And Lakeland, I thought last night, nice win against Marshfield.
Monday night.
Was it? What did they beat Marshfield 60-49? So another nice win against a Valley Conference team.
And Wilmette had 26 in that game. Evenhouse 13. And you're right, and that was a road game as well.
Yes.
Marshfield always. I mean, obviously Marshfield struggled in the non-conference, but they're still always a solid team with a terrific head coach.
Right. So doing a good spot to hold their spot, and Wilmette doing the damage, and I think it'll be it's always a great battle with those two teams.
Merrill South, you got Assumption undefeated, 7-0 in the conference, 10-1 overall. Stratford right there at 7-1 and 10-3. Auburndale, another game back at 6-2, 11-2. Marathon 5-2 and 10-2. Edgar 2-6, 6-10, and Newman 1-7 and 1-9. It's a very interesting league in that Assumption expected to be right where they are. I think Stratford is showing that they're well worthy. Auburndale as well. Marathon is the big surprise to me. Obviously Coach Snyder's done it for 2 decades. He's an outstanding coach. I'm still wondering, and I hope he takes this the right way, but how much of this is smoke and mirrors and how much of it is that this team is really growing? But 10-2 is 10-2.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The record kind of stands for the proof that you want to see. And they're still sitting in a nice place in that conference. I mean, I think Assumption showing that they could beat Stratford by 10 a couple weeks ago are up in the top echelon of that conference at 10-1 mark, 7-0 overall. And they're just rolling teams by the numbers that they're putting up on the board. Stratford, Auburndale, Marathon are kind of sitting in that range to see who's going to fight for second, third, and fourth. There's just those spots are up for grabs. Those records are tight. They all have similar overall records, so it'll be interesting to see. Do they get spoiled by somebody in the north, or does one of the bottom teams in the Merrill South take one they're not supposed to? So it'll be interesting to see where Stratford, Auburndale, Marathon finish out in the middle of that pack.
Merrill North has Phillips at 6-2, 10-2 overall. Prentice 5-3, 8-5. Rib Lake 4-4, 7-6. Athens and Abbotsford 2-6 in the conference. Shawamigan 0-8. And the difference right now is Phillips was the only crossover winner last weekend. And again, it shows you get that crossover game. And it means obviously I think that later they'll may play somebody that maybe Prentice hasn't played or Rib Lake hasn't played yet. But when you do get those crossover wins in the Merrill North, it goes a long way.
Yep, and Phillips again standing strong based on the tradition they've had. They're 10-2 overall. Eckert's putting up over 20 points a game. I will say this. I watched both the Newman boys and girls play Phillips at the doubleheader up there on It was streamed through their
the
school district,
right?
Because I couldn't remember the radio station you mentioned on the sister station. So
you could have sent me a text.
I know, but once I found it, I saw it. It wasn't your broadcast, so I figured I could just go watching that. But I thought the Newman Catholic girls played them tough. It was a tight game. They ended up losing 38-51. But so Phillips had to earn that non-conference game to put them out ahead and be at that 6-2 mark.
CWC girls, and what a major win for Whitburn. Whitburn still undefeated, 12-0 overall, 6-0 in the conference. Bondwell now 6-1 in the conference, 11-4 overall. Then you take a dip to Wyega Fremont at 3-3 in the conference. Shayocton, Menominee Nation 3-4, Manawa and Amherst 2-4, Iola 1-6. As last night, Wittenberg Burnawood whipped Bondwell 63-40. Milena Granquist 19 points, 10 rebounds. Rory Salveson 14 points as well for the Chargers. We've been saying it all year that the Whitburn Bondwell games, which was the Achilles heel for Whitburn last year in the conference, this Whitburn team, it looks like they got the experience, they got the talent, and right now they got the results.
The number in the score discrepancy is a statement win. I mean, when you can go and take 23, you take down the second place team in the conference and kind of
perfect.
Yeah, you kind of put them in their place. I mean, that's a nice win for Wittenberg Burnawood. So again, standing undefeated overall and in conference after a hard fought victory versus Bondwell is good, and they're going to continue that because now, like you said, I think Bondwell is second, Wittenberg is first, and after that. Those two teams are going to win most of those games, and so they're just going to continue.
And that's the way it was last year.
Yes.
I mean, so they knew that. I think they probably both know that those are the two games that are determining the conference championship.
But you follow the averages on Granquist and Salveson. It's just a 1-2 punch.
Granquist is always a double-double, isn't she?
Yeah. So the numbers those two girls can put up, and when Coach from Wittenberg was in here last year, he
may have to get her back.
Yeah, that's what. And I know I didn't want to mispronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try to say it. But when Coach was in here last year, he really praised those girls, how they feed off each other, and when they just back and forth. I mean, that's a tough guard for any team to have to go against two players that they're trying to shut down and keep in check.
Yeah, I mean, again, this Whitburn program has just been knocking on the door. It seems like for many years, and who knows? I'm gonna have to do a little research, go a little deeper in terms of their bracket, because sometimes it all depends on the bracket, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, it really does. And so again, great job so far for Whitburn as they are 12-0. And then CWC North, you got Gresham 3-0, 6-6, Marion Tigerton 2-1, 8-5, Boulder and Northland Lutheran 0-2, Northland 4-6 overall. Northland did beat Port Edwards in a non-conference game Thursday, 71-39. They got 27 points and 10 rebounds from Jocelyn Adams. Abby Ostrowski had 14. And then last night, call it a defensive struggle to be kind.
Yes, it was. I was going to say low scoring game, but you can give the numbers on that. Go ahead.
29-25, Marion Tigerton. Again, big win for them. They're 2-1 in conference. Northland fell to 0-2, but 29-25. I hope it wasn't a night where they took the air out of the ball. But
it sets that offensive tone that we see most teams play with now just a little bit back. But maybe it was a rough shooting night. Maybe the ball didn't fall in the hoop the way they wanted it to. But again, Northern Lutheran trying to find their way a little bit higher up in that conference as they're sitting at fourth place.
All right, let's look ahead as we got action coming up as we get middle part of January. We got a lot of conference activity going on. Let's talk about what's going on with the boys coming up this week, and starting with the Wisconsin Valley Conference, and a couple of league games on Friday night, and then basically a lot of non-conference games after that. You got Marshfield and Merrill and Rapids at Everest on Friday night. Then you got West in a non-conference game against Green Bay East Friday, a game that you can hear right here. And I expect you all to be listening in 7 o'clock sharp on Friday night, right here on 98.9 WXCO. And then you have Spash and Marshfield going to what's called the Midwest Players Classic in La Crosse at the La Crosse Center. So playing in the big arena. Stevens Point takes on Mankato East, and of course Mankato in Minnesota. And then Marshfield takes on Waunakee on Saturday in that tournament. We talked to Coach Troy Pieper earlier, and they have a non-conference game on Saturday, again, the back-to-back, Marshfield Friday night, and then Antigo, who's in their sectional bracket on Saturday. And then a lot of non-conference games in the Valley coming up on Tuesday. What jumps out?
Well, I like kind of watching some of these schedules, like for Marshfield, when you play your conference game on Friday, and you turn around and did a non-conference game on Saturday. That starts getting you ready for some of that playoff tone.
In lacrosse, no less. That's a trek.
Yeah, so they're going to be moving. I'm interested just because we had Coach Pieper on. I like hearing that chance for Coach Pieper. It should be low key for we aren't supposed to win that game. We just got to go out and play, and good things can happen from that lack of pressure, obviously. And Marshfield's not going to want to lighten up at all because they know what they control in terms of their destiny and winning that conference. So I'm interested to see that matchup. West, I think the next two games that they have in Green Bay, East, and Lakeland, they should handle those two teams from what I've seen. East has had an interesting one because their last game was against West, so they've had a little bit of a long layoff.
Yeah.
And they're going to have Pines down in their building on January 21st, who I think they'll handle based on what they've done, but you just never know with Pines. We saw them play a little bit earlier. We're still trying to understand what their identity is because all of a sudden they beat Mosney, but then they turn around and don't play well in the next game.
Medford.
So it's kind of like up and down a little bit with Pines.
With outside shooters, that's sometimes the case, right?
Yep.
That was you in the day.
Sometimes. So those are kind of the Valley games. And still looking, after hearing Coach Pieper's description of Wisconsin Rapids, looking to see if they can get that first up. Because it seems like they're on the fringe of it. And sometimes just getting that monkey off your back is players can play a little tight and they're fighting for a little hard. And sometimes that's when extra mistakes come. So I'm sure those kids are still trying to prove themselves in terms of that win category, so it'd be interesting to see if they can get it, but it isn't going to get any easier because they've got to go to DC Everest, and then their non-conference game is Hortonville over there. So
it's like, again, the schedule makers not helped them out so far
not
this
at
year.
all. Yeah.
Great Northern Conference. I think the big game within the league is Medford at Rhinelander, the top two teams, and Medford a chance to move into a first-place tie. Mosinee will try to bounce back against Lakeland on Friday night. Mosinee has a good non-conference game at Marathon on Monday night that we will have right here on 98.9 WXCO. As you look at, and you mentioned Rib Lake and Northern Pines, actually kind of an interesting game. What do you see with the GNC teams?
I think it'll be, again, to see how Medford is, they're 6-6 overall, 3-1, but like you said, they low in scoring. What is their identity? What can they do? They're well coached. They have players that are capable of winning basketball games.
Up and down would be perfectly put because they have been, because they've lost some ugly games. That's the thing that kind of jumps out. Sometimes you can lose games but when you see 21 points, it's like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, and so as a coach, you're driving yourself to get those consistencies, and sometimes maybe you just know your team well, and you got to figure out how they're going to show up, how they're going to play, what it is. So Coach Brown will have them prepared for the Rhinelander game because that's a big, but that kind of throws things into the, it's because Medford's 3-1, Rhinelander's 5-0. That makes that whole conversation interesting at the top there if Medford gets that win. And for Mosinee, I think
Medford's
it's
4-1 actually.
Are they 4-1?
After last night's game.
Okay, well, even more interesting then. Sorry.
Since you corrected me, I thought I better.
I appreciate it, but I will say this: we can blame that a little bit if we throw that out on that WIS Sports where we got duplicate teams.
Well, you shouldn't blame them though at the same time because they do provide so much information.
They do.
And also, I'm curious about Mosinee because they've had some good wins this year. They've had I think losing at home last night is one that kind of probably sticks in the craw for Mosinee. And again, I think they have some really good talent. I think they're still a very good basketball team. I'm curious to see them on Monday night.
Right. Well, and again, if Rhinelander beats Medford, they're back right in the second place, and a little bit harder to creep up on 2 games on a team that's undefeated, but not one
impossible.
Right. So they'll take Lakeland, I believe, on a Friday, and then I think that's a great I like those non-conference matchups where you jump across the conference. They're always fun to watch to see how teams are outside because everybody can talk about comparisons, but until they actually play, I think it sets the tone a little bit for whose conference they think is better after that W.
Merrill South, a huge game. You talk about quite a week for Auburndale. It's that where you face Marathon and then you play Stratford, and they got the first part of it, and now Stratford goes to Auburndale on Friday. I guess that would be the big highlight of the Merrill South. But generally, what do you think?
It's so hard to make any sort of prediction or analyze. These teams are well coached. They just wail on each other. I think when you go to that game, you're going to it's going to be a lot of fun for the people spectating. Probably a little nerve-wracking for the coaches.
And odds are
it's
going to be close.
Yeah, these teams know each other so well. The kids have played against each other for years. The same coaches are still doing these teams and working with them and taking on those leadership roles. So I think it's going to be a great game. I always like to think that you got to play a little bit better when you're going on the road. So for Stratford has to do that since they're going into Auburndale's territory, and Auburndale is coming off, I think, a bigger win. They had to go dogfight a double overtime win against Marathon, where Stratford handled Assumption. I think that makes you maybe a little more battle tested.
And even the other two games, I think, are going to be interesting on Friday in that league. They're always interesting when those South teams get together, but I think that both the Newman Assumption game has a potential of being, I think, a pretty good offensive showcase, because I think both teams have kids who can fill it up. And then, of course, it's never easy for Marathon when they make that short trek to Edgar.
Yeah, that's a rivalry game going across the highway there a little bit. And when I saw it, Edgar, I liked. They were physical. They ran the floor. They didn't back down. They were, playing tough as nails type basketball where they're controlling everything and they're going to win the street fight. I like and Marathon took the tough loss, so coming back looking to finish up that game and keep contention up there in the top of that conference. They don't want to let one slip away to Edgar either. For Newman and Assumption, I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair. I mean, both those teams are quick to pull the trigger, and they like to light it up, and they got a handful of guys that want to do that for each one of those teams.
And I guess in terms of conference big games, North and Lutheran and Tigerton in the CWC North. I mean, I don't see really the big ones in the Merrillwood North or the CWC East coming up, but CWC North, a couple of undefeateds.
Yep, and that's exactly what you want at this. It's playing for the top of the conference. It's 3-0 versus 4-0, and versus Tigerton at 4-0, Northern Lutheran at 3-0, and whoever comes out on top sticks the other person with an extra loss and knocks them back a place in the conference.
Yeah, about 2 minutes to go. What do you want to talk about?
You want to go into more game or just things?
No, whatever's on your mind.
I had some I always like to joke with the officials when I'm scorekeeping, and I play like I don't know what's going on. So one of the things I always say, hey, we go in 4 quarters tonight. And so I've actually had
such a funny guy.
Yeah, but the actual thing is I've actually had a lot of that say they would love to go back to that. Would you want to, if you were head of the WIA and got to make that decision? Do you see any benefit to that?
I actually asked Nate Lemons about that, because when they went to Florida, they played 4 quarters, because that's the rules down there. And he said it wasn't a huge amount of difference, but he did have talked with his assistant, and in terms of substitutions and having that break right in the middle, there is a different mindset for a coach. I just don't like the idea of losing any time, because you are losing 4 minutes of game time.
Yep.
That's significant. I mean, if you want.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.